So this is problem 10.2b, and this is on bonds payable. And the first thing they ask us to do is to issue some bonds. So we can do this, 6/1, 15. We're going to get some cash. And these are issued at their face value because it doesn't tell us otherwise. So we just have cash and bonds payable for the face value, which is $2 million. So far, so good. Then they ask us to pay interest. Now you notice the interest date here, it's 6/1 and 12/1. So the first time we're going to pay interest is 12/1. Okay, and so we know we're going to have interest expense, and we're going to write a check for the amount of the interest. What's the amount of the interest? Well, we take the $2 million bond, face value of the bond, times the interest rate, which is 9%. Okay, so that would give us $180,000, right? That would be the annual interest, but we're making it in 2 payments, so each payment will be $90,000. Okay, so far so good. Now, I think in the notes to this problem, I say that Wiley makes it a bit more complex than I would like for just learning about bonds. But you notice we get 12/1 interest date. So that means at 12/31, we've earned a month's worth of interest, or we have accrued interest expense for 1 month, and we have to bring that onto our books. So 12/31, we're going to go interest expense, and we're going to have interest payable just for the month of December, because we've paid all the interest due for this past year, for 2015, up through 12/1. So we would take that $180,000 and divide it by 12. That's the annual interest of 180 divided by 12. It's building at a rate of 15,000 per month. So we would have to accrue 15,000 of interest. Okay, so the next thing we would have to do here is to pay the next interest payment on June 1st of 16. Okay, so we know that when we write the interest check, it's going to be for the 90,000, right? Just like up here. But we're going to have interest payable because we accrued this interest here. It's already been booked as an expense for last year, so interest payable 15,000. And then we would have the interest expense for the rest of it. Okay, so the interest expense would be 75,000. And if you think about it, this is for December, and then this would be January through May 30th, okay? Because we're paying it on June 1st. Okay, so I just think that's a little bit complicated. But they're asking, as part of the problem, they actually don't ask you to do all this, but what they did ask you to do was at 12/31, to come up with what the balance sheet would look like. So at 12/31, now let's go back here, okay? At 12/31, you would have your balance sheet, and you would have your current liabilities. Okay, so you'd have some current liabilities on the balance sheet, and that would be your interest payable of 15,000. Okay, and so this is your balance sheet at 12/31/15. And then you would have your long-term liabilities of the $2 million bonds payable. So you have your bonds payable of the $2 million. Okay, so that would be your balance sheet presentation of those two items. And you'd say the bonds payable were due in 2020. Okay, the other thing they ask you to do in part, I believe it's part F of the problem, it says, okay, now we're going to redeem the bonds, and it says we redeem them on 12/1/2015. Okay, so if we had redeemed the bonds on 12/1/15, and it says we redeem them at, or we call them at 102, the bonds are called at 102 on December 1st, 2016. Okay, so we would be up to 12/1/2016. We would be redeeming our bonds payable, and they come on and off the books at their face value. I haven't really left enough room here. I work so much better on Excel. The cash we have to pay to redeem them is the 2 million times 1.02, so we would go 2 million times 1.02, because they were redeemed at 102% of their face value, which is 2040000. So we would go 2040000. And so that means that we have a loss on the bond redemption. Loss on the bond redemption of $40,000. Okay, so that takes us, I think, through most of problem 10 to B. All right.